Something about digging and just feeling through the dirt for them. Check that out. I'm gonna get these inside, get them out of the sun. And I got some berries there that I can get the seeds out of. Only half of this raised bed. Get the other half later. So I pulled from half the raised bed out there. This is really nice looking. Some little potato berries. I still got to ferment, get the seeds. And compared to some seed potato that I have ready to go out into the garden, into the dirt, a bit of it is ready in here. I have a whole nother tray out there right now to put in the dirt. Some I've already put into the dirt. Just recently, this past week, I got to get my whole second round of crops for the summer going. Beds that I've prepped, a couple of them already, and I've been planting even bush beans, kales, and beets. Tons of those already. I've got in as my second round of planting. The main second round's coming in as my tomatoes are ripening and peppers are starting to really come in. Beautiful time. I've harvested this first round of potatoes, and that's fed me. I made a big pot of mashed potatoes. That was really good. That's why I'm making hot habanero powder right now with these ones that I pulled off the tree. Grassy overgrown. I like it, grassy overgrowth. And then all these plants and grasses, weeds that come up and grow up in here. Like, I don't know what this thing is, but it's cool. And then there's tomatoes volunteers all through here where I had the tomatoes planted on the trellis last year. They all fell, a lot of the tomatoes fell into the ground and they just get squished down and in, and then they volunteer their way up the next year. And then the pond, the elusive leak back there. I gotta keep finding it as I fill up, and then it'll drain down a little bit because it's got that little leak, and then I'll know that that's the level it's at, and then I gotta go in there and get a couple scoops of the water out, find out, look around, and hit it again. And this should be the last time I have to hit it. I hit it twice already with the tape, and the tape is like a pond tape. It's rubberized like a tar, and it's getting hot under the sun, and it's kind of melting and stretching, so it's opening little gaps. As I add a couple more layers and layer, so there'll be a third layer, and then that should be enough to really thicken it on there and get it sealed up and fill it up again, and hopefully good to go. And it's full, and then the sides of it is going to get what I was thinking, chicken wire. I'll stake it to the lip when I cut it of the plastic with the garden stakes you use for landscaping fabric, and then fold it over, roll it over the side, and tuck it down a bit right off the ground walkway, and that'll hold the whole side of the pond together and leave gap for plants to grow through, natural things like it is now. And just like this, and then I'll harvest this stuff with my sickle and even let it overgrow at times. Harvest for the animals and let things volunteer all through here and overgrow for the pond's biodiversity. And then the spigot, that's another thing I'm gonna have to seal, put a board and seal the spigot to give myself water access with a hose to the pond, because this thing sits off the ground level, and then it's maybe about the same depth down, and down. This is a squash, and there's volunteer tomatoes all up here. Build a structure over top, let me go in there in the winter, and a metal grate running across the deep end, and I'll be able to burn a fire, keep it warm and keep it thawed. The beets, they're still little, but I'm eating the greens, making my salads. Potatoes, I got some water on them. I gotta get them out of the rainwater right now before I even put them in the ground. I'm gonna bring them up is what I'm thinking, and I'll put them in a dry thing, let them dry up a bit. Potato seed about to go in the ground. Right in here. And this is the silver fox grow out section where the juvenile rabbits hang out. Of the silver fox variety. They like it back there in a little corner. Here under in the box. I'm gonna build another tractor, and a simple one that can scoot around real light. This one's heavy. I love it, and it's stationary right now. And it's just attached dock that's gonna be here for a while. So I'm gonna build another one. I'm thinking actually 2 of them. I have wood right now. I'm about to go and explore into my wood pile and put this on the priority to build 1, 2, and then I can run them behind each other or side by side staggered and cut the grass with them and give them all that food, as well as then have the 2 or 3 adult rabbits running around the yard. And that's going to get fenced off just the same way that I did all of this. It's all done here, all up through here. It's a 150-foot roll of chicken wire by 4 foot, and it's cut in half. It's made this perimeter. The welded wire on the inside, but that's not in the ground. It's just kind of staked right at ground level. And then this is layered over as a second layer to really give it the protection that it needs from the rabbits getting in, because it's underground a bit, and then it's just enough, tall enough to keep all the babies out and keep the adults out too. So that's all done. Then these are getting encased, and that's cucumbers really taking over now. There's a couple pepper plants that are back in here, a Murasaki purple, then another one of the Caspiums anums are buried under here on both sides. I gotta expose them by getting a few of these cucumber leaves knocked away. And then there's cucumbers forming, and they're all really, everything's starting to come in now, so give it a week or 2 and there's going to be a ton of food out here. Not that there isn't already, it's just everything is now getting ripe for the main part of the summer season. You can see all these tomatoes in here. They're absolutely everywhere. And look at that, see? Those tomatoes. Some big old beef steaks. Beef steaks. My rabbit is eating my cannabis because my plant is leaning. Check that out. This is my Flemish Giant cross. I don't remember the name of the breed it's crossed with. It's written down on paper inside. This will be a big rabbit, bigger than the other meat rabbits that I have. And she's special. Her eyes, she looks so much more alien than the other rabbits. Why are you eating my cannabis, baby? Sweet peppers. So this is a Murasaki purple pepper. And those ones are a sweet pepper, Caspium anum. Another purple one here. I'm going to go ahead and throw beans, pole beans, down in here where these peas were. Pulling these peas off, and I'm harvesting the seeds out of the pods. Wait till it's dry out here again, and I'll get the rest of most of this. And it's all pretty much dry. I'm putting them away nicely with a desiccant to help keep the moisture out of the bags for seed saving. Look at this cabbage. Beautiful. Amaranth here. I put potatoes in, all in here, and then these were volunteered potatoes from last season, and I kind of propped them up with stakes here recently, so they're sitting taller, and it's going to let these new potatoes I just put in, kind of staggered throughout, come up, and then I'll go ahead and harvest them all when these new ones are done for the season. And these ones will probably have died back before then, but that'll be okay. And then there's another pepper actually right here, another pepper here. So these are more of the sweet pepper and then the Murasaki purple. Here's where I stopped putting potatoes in the ground so far, and I'm gonna go ahead and put more in now. I've got them out here right there in a bin. I'm gonna continue that up into there. We had rain come down, and a bit of it out there. See that right there? It's a cracked branch, my neighbor's tree. It fell down and kind of made a mess right there, and he's up north coming back later, and we're gonna have to knock that down. He might have to get a guy in to hit it. Not sure if lightning hit it or the wind or the weight of the rain, but it's pretty gnarly. It's pretty gnarly. And I just learned something. I gotta share this about potatoes, hilling them. Now the potatoes grow their potato all along the roots of the potato up from wherever you planted that seed, all up. It's going to grow its potatoes off of that. Then when it pops out the dirt, 8 to 10 inches tall, you want to hill it and you bring dirt up around it on both sides. Added dirt space there, and it will increase the yield. After this heavy rain, I pruned these zucchinis last night and left some of these larger leaves hanging out to gather the sunlight, like solar panels. And then you trim away all the thicker stuff that grows, which I have tossed over there somewhere, and it exposes the inner core of the plant. And I lifted it and I worked around it to really clean up all of the cuttings and to get it over top of a nice little layer of bedding so it has a nice place to sit. Let's go in there and look at it. Here at the trellis, all of these tomatoes just really taking off now and producing fantastic fruit, fantastic ones. None ripe really on the trellis yet, but there's been some ripe stuff out there, just a little bit, enough to give me tomatoes every day so far for the past like 5 days. And I'm thinking in probably the next week I'll have just a ton of ripe ones all over everything, and it's gonna be glorious. Trellis works really well. These are cucumbers coming in around this squash, winter squash, which is a butternut variety, and that's all growing right here in this section of this trellis, and this should take over like that. And then over here it's also taking over, growing out. I have it coming, and I want it to run down the fence here, my compost tea bin. And then the zucchinis, you see, it's like a core. See how that lifts? So they're cleaned up, and the flowers are exposed. They're really opening up, and it's allowing all of this new growth to get to the light, easier access, coming up and out, and really explode. Then the tomatoes back here too. There's a pile right here. That's the pile of the trimmings. So it was really taken over, and it's now dialed back. This front little area where I have these kales, black radishes, corn. Nourishing this room today, getting these things pruned up, taken care of, fertilized, and ready for growth into fall and into winter. When I come back through here, I've got a ton of soil in these bags in the other room just ready. It's dry, it hasn't had anything in it, it's stacked up and ready for me to use this fall into winter to put in the things like all the leafy greens and whatever else I decide to just fill this room with. I'm thinking I got the peas I just harvested, and I want to try peas on the trellises and see how that does. Beans did okay. The cucumbers didn't really produce at all. I had a few that produced on here, but I'm thinking as I continue to mend my soil and get it more fertile, it should produce more. And as I seed save generations, I'm thinking they'll get better and better genetics that will produce more and more. And these lights may not be perfectly ideal lights. I don't really know exactly about my lighting. I know these are full spectrum quantum boards. As far as I know, is they're used for grow tents and growing cannabis mainly. They've been working great. So maybe there's something that's better for the yield for me for in here. All this has been really, it's been a beautiful ride using these lights. Thinking as I mend the soil and all, it will get healthier and healthier. Get a fan and keep that going in here. That'll really help circulate. I'm scooping out a bit of the top layer of what's in here, and then I'm laying down all of this real fertile manure from the rabbits and the ducks, and then I'm going to go ahead and put a layer of straw over top of these to help keep moisture in, and then water them real good and keep them really healthy to the fall and into winter when I really get this room booming again. Lemon tree, lemon tree, lemon tree, avocado tree, edible leaves, aloe vera colony, pepper plant, and then there's the Caribbean red habanero hot peppers, 2 of them. I got a little one and then my big one I've produced and grown, and I've harvested a couple different times now making hot pepper powder. The community of aloes, little babies popping up next to the big mama plant. It's a community now. And now I have one over here as well. That has a nice one coming in on it, on the big plant. Mulched real nice down around them. Now I'm going to cover them with a bit of straw. Then water real good tonight. The aloe grows new shoots, and that's how it multiplies. There may even be aloe seeds. I'd have to look. But I know this is what's working with my aloe, and I can pull these out of here, put them anywhere. But this, I'm going to let them grow and go in here and take over a bit. And I may pull a few of them. I may even pull all of them. But right now, I'm just going to let them get bigger, a little bit stronger in the same pot. Let them enjoy each other for a while. And next door, there's another one. And this one's got 1. Bell peppers, and then there's also some other peppers I forgot the names of, but they're great, and they'll produce, and I'll have those even larger and more in charge this winter. Pepper patch, the avocado tree, wood burning stove is pretty much finished with the hearth stone. Then that's a heat shield backdrop. That's a heat exchange, so it'll blow heat through the house. I'll put pole beans and I'll put peas on the trellises this fall. Super excited about these lemon trees in here, and another one here, another one here. They'll be getting moved to bigger pots as I go. Kind of neglected some of the peppers on these, and they've just been shriveling up. That's okay. What I do is I just toss them down here, and then they just disintegrate into the soil. Passive, you know. Put this around it. Boom. Just a little more. Leave the trunk of the pepper tree exposed. pruned up the pepper plants, got most of the peppers off of them. Anything that was too much, I left 1 or 2 on each plant growing, and keeping it like that so that the plant will focus on growing stronger rather than producing peppers right now. But there's a couple here, these orange, they're kind of small. I'm thinking that as I add nutrients to the soil base and continue to take pots, when I have 2 of them, I'll break 2 down and mix up the soil content of both of those, mix the microbiomes, and then strengthen the soil fertility over time as I go through cycles and cycles, adding this manure on the surface, and then it breaks down and it adds to the fertility. And then the straw that I'm about to put on, that'll break down. Trellis will do much better as I go, building this soil. That's another big thought I'm having. Cucumbers and peas and beans, legumes.
I've brought in the straw, which is actually hay for the rabbits, but it'll be better and more nutritious to break down and feed the plants. It's the heat of summer. I don't have AC. I just do all my work. I sweat, pour it out. I take a nice rinse under my fresh, clean water. That's like a waterfall relief, and it's a wonderful feeling. Wind, heat, water, earth.
Lunchtime. From the garden, we have celery here, green peppers, some tomatoes down there, a Murasaki purple pepper, fresh eggs, salt, and steak. Beans here, I'm inoculating with a legume inoculant to increase their yield. And there's bush beans here and pole beans here, rattlesnake pole beans, dragon tongue bush bean, and golden butter wax bush bean. Zip ties, this cordage, and some Gorilla Tape. These are 3 main important critical items you'll need to be building any and everything that you're doing. This is what I have found works really well, these to tie back and train things, plants, and also hold structures in place. The tape is really to tape a lot of stuff, seams, anything you would need some duct tape for. Gorilla Tape is stronger. Zip ties work really well for holding the fencings in the garden back, even helping to train things and to really hold things together.